All right, guys, we're gonna get started. Just so you know.
All right.
I don't think so.
I don't want to yeah.
I just feel bad. They're all trying to be social. I don't want to be rude either.
RP3, you're in charge. You gotta get the people to just take it down a notch. We're gonna start the class. Is anybody on the outside of the door trying to sit in on the class?
And make
We'll close the
100K
door.
with your database. It's gonna be a guillotine if you close it.
Yeah.
You're coming? It's
Yeah.
okay. Take your time. Take your time. We don't want to
Do
exclude
we have
you.
anybody on?
Not in trouble. Like, we just pulled the party up. Look, guys, no more party.
Let Mike. No.
We just totally killed the vibe. That would fail inspection.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. It's like a really good comedy act, Nalini. I'm getting like Austin Powers trying to do the K-turn for my vibes. Oh, nice.
Yeah, we should. Christina, the remote works, right? Yeah, access it.
All right, so thank you guys for coming out today. So just curious, there is no wrong answer here, but did anyone, who in the room netted $100,000 last year selling real estate? Listen, Jean, cool. So we'll look to you guys for advice on anything we might have missed in our presentation today. But for everyone else, what we want to do today is set like a super clear path for you to be able to do the same. Net at least $100,000 selling real estate. So I guess the other question would be, how many people, like it's mainly going to be focused on building a great database. So how many people do you guys think need to be in a database that would net you 100,000? Feel free to toss out. 1,000, 200, 1,000. Depends on the person. All right. Well, today we're going to talk about how it doesn't actually really depend on the person. It depends on the system. So we're going to pull lots of systems and models that are right in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, as well as Shift, and dive deep into. You might be surprised by how many people you need in a database to net 100,000. So. All right. So Meg, take it over. What are we looking at here with our chart on Mindshare as it relates to being a real estate?
So this is the mind share of a real estate agent. So this is a percentage of how many people in the world can recall one agent, two agents, or everyone else when they ask, who do you know that's in real estate?
And so the whole reason that this is super important, guys, is that the whole goal of today in this class and what we're going to teach you how to do is we want to make sure that when somebody is thinking of real estate and they know you, that you are the person that comes top of mind. And they're picking up the phone and calling you when they've got to either buy, sell, or invest in real estate. The amazing thing about that is 82% of recent sellers contacted only one agent before finding the right agent, as well as 90% of home sellers worked with a real estate agent to sell their home. So the odds are stacked in your favor as long as you take that #1 position in their mind. The big thing about this also is, so for anybody that's been around, who's been at KW for more than like 5 years? Raise your hands. So Gary Keller for probably about 5 years, about as long as it's been since they started building out Command from scratch. And we all know, I know this is being recorded, but we can all admit that like Command has had some big stumbling blocks. Plenty of people, myself included, have said, screw this, I'm not going to work in there anymore. But the whole goal of building out Command was that Gary said, listen, it's time, yes, we are in a technology business, but it's a people business as well. We need to build technology that will allow you to communicate with your people at a high enough level that you're building a moat around your business. Essentially, right, you're fortifying a castle whereby no Zillow, no Rex that Bill was talking about before can come in and say, hey, over here, look, I can offer you a discount and commission. Those are your people. They know you, they value what you bring to the table and help and guide them in that buying and selling process. So that's the whole goal of today, is helping you guys build that moat around your people. Because I also just recently saw, Gary, a little quote about like wartime and peacetime. And like for the last couple of years, the market has been red hot, right? Anybody can go out there and help somebody buy and sell a house. I mean, on the buyer side, it could be a little difficult, but it's not necessarily been a challenging time to get a house sold, right? You put it on the market and it's gone. We're seeing that shift. And I think when we have a shift in the market, it's all the more important that we build that moat around our people. So I know I kind of went on like a little rant there about building the moat, but I really want to ingrain that in your guys' head, that that's the objective today. Let's build a moat around your people.
And I think like part of the reason why we have that header, you are your own competition, is it's your listing to lose if you don't follow up and talk to your database and have meaningful conversations. Because essentially you just go on the appointment and there's a very high chance that you're going to get the listing, because they're only really talking to one agent. And I know I've gotten in my own head about that. I'm sure all of us have. Well, maybe, or I don't want to call, but ultimately, like, it's our business to lose if we don't call them and remind them we're in real estate. Like, they don't think about us at night, guys, and going, oh, Megan, what a great realtor. Like, maybe sometimes, but like, ultimately, you really do have to remind them that we're here to help them and guide them beyond the transaction once that closes. So it's really important to remember, like, without us talking to them, we're losing the business 100% of the time.
And so remind me, guys, like, it's not like Megan and I are up here saying like, we're the best at this, but I have some like actual personal firsthand experiences where, for anybody that doesn't know, I stepped away from the business for 2 years and had Meg run, working with my buyers and sellers. And so as we go through this, we're going to talk about a certain couple of models and my own personal experience and seeing how it played out when I stopped communicating with my database personally on a regular basis. So have some failures to share with you guys as well, but we always fail forward. So this was another quote that we pulled out of Shift that I really loved was, leads are leads. It does not matter how you acquire the lead. What matters is how you deal with the lead and turn it into business.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because you can meet leads anywhere, right?
I just had a situation a week and a half ago, actually 2 weeks ago. I have a lead company that sends me leads. This guy was looking for investment properties. Guys from Belleville, I really didn't give him a lot of oomph, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Fortune is in the follow-up. I talked to him a couple days later after sending him some properties. Did you find anything? Did you like anything? He says, well, actually, I turned my ideas into a single-family home instead right now, instead of looking for a multifamily for investments. I said, well, what are you looking for? He said, I want something in Paramus or Kinnamon or Franklin Lakes, and I'll spend up to $3 million.
There you go.
Look at that.
And could you imagine if you got in your head and was like, I'm not going to follow up today. I don't really want to.
I Googled him. He's a carpenter from Belleville.
It's crazy though.
We contracted on a house in Kinnamon for $2.6 million.
Congrats, that's awesome. Leads are leads.
We're waiting for the money to arrive. He inherited a boatload of money.
But so you never know.
So at the end of the month, this money is coming, and hopefully at the end of the month, I will have a $2.6 million sale.
A lead is a lead. It's all in
Doesn't
the
matter
follow-up.
where you get it,
The
yeah.
fortune is in the follow-up.
Mhm.
So related to that, does anybody do like open houses as their main way of trying to generate business?
I just started doing this.
Just started doing it, right? So for anybody that's like a new agent in the business, my first-hand experience was like I was the new agent in an office that was only about 40 or 50 agents, and like I just basically begged everyone to let me sit open houses when I first got into the business. So I got plenty of opportunities, and I probably spent 52 weeks doing anywhere between 50 and 100 open houses. I closed no business from that. So after year one, I basically said, all right, open houses don't work, throw that out. That's dumb, I'm done with it. Flash forward a couple of years later, I watched a guy who said he built all of his business off of open houses. For anyone familiar, his name is Chris Suarez. He's probably one of the most successful agents in Keller Williams, and everything is based on the idea of systems, models. He shared how it was all in the follow-up. So my problem was I would host an open house. I'd think I made some good connections with people. maybe I'd call them one time after the open house, and then I'd be like, all right, on to the next open house. Nobody wanted to buy a house. I was literally just flushing those people down the drain, not putting them into a database.
They were probably on
putting
a
them-
piece of paper,
Yeah.
right, of a sign-in sheet that
Yeah.
you did nothing with.
I had no system in place, so I would talk to people, make a great connection. If they didn't answer on the first call that I made to them, off to the next open house. And I realized that was my fatal flaw. There's no one way that you're gonna build a business, but no matter who you're talking to, whether it's open house people, for sale by owners, expireds, whether it's your friends, family, you're involved deeply into the community, like we just learned with Vanessa, like those people have to go somewhere and you have to systematically talk to them. So on to the next spot. So who's in your database, right? Meg, take over. Who should be in?
Everyone should be in your database. So that's something that we've talked about, like, and a few weeks ago, Scott even challenged me, he's like, go through your phone. I guarantee you're missing people in your database. And I think I added in like 12 people. And I would say out of those 12 people, I probably lost 3 opportunities to buy or sell with these people because they didn't exist anywhere. So coworkers from, I mean, how many of you have had multiple careers before this? I'm sure a lot of you. Your coworkers, family, friends, for sell by owners, open house attendees, there you go. Orphan buyers, so people that bought your listings and maybe their agent doesn't do the follow-up. Referral partners, renters. I would say renters are a big one, guys. Don't forget about renters. Past clients and then vendors, which is something that I know you've been working a lot towards, business to business relationships. I think we overlook that a lot of times too.
Yeah, and B2B is one of my favorites just because naturally, like, I'm more inclined to like, I don't know, I like to communicate with other like business people. They seem to like think the way that I think. But what I realized is that like, it's not just about the relationship I'm making with them. So like yesterday I went and I grabbed a coffee with a fellow person. She's a banker at a local bank. And I'm just talking to her about like, all right, how can I help your business? Here's a little bit about, naturally she asked me, what's my business all about? How can she help me? I was like, honestly, like just putting me in touch with anyone that's like, even got a remote thought of buying, selling, or investing. Doesn't matter when they're gonna do it, but I wanna like get into a conversation with them about, you know, the advantages to doing it now, waiting, all of that good stuff. She's like, you know what? My nephew is 25 years old. He's super impressive with like saving up money. And like, I didn't think he was in a position to buy a house, but he's got 50,000 saved up. And from what you're telling me, it sounds like maybe he could be making a move now. So now I've got a buyer consult to meet with that. And so like.
And what did you do with his information? Put it in a database.
So it's just talking to people. And then again, the key is we can't put them in the database if we don't have information from them. So I know we'll talk about that a little bit more, but you know, to me, it's name, phone number, email, and home address is ideal.
Yeah.
Because this way, Melissa and I, we were just talking about like different ways that you can get in touch with someone, right? I might, you know, call someone 10 different times and they might never pick up because maybe to them, phone is not their primary way of communicating. But if I shot them a text or I shot them an email or I wrote them a nice note saying, hey, it was great to meet you at the open house. You know, I would love to connect and just keep in touch. There's different ways that work for everyone, and it's all about having those different options. So.
And something I want to touch on a bit is when I've done my database in the past, I've always kind of treated the lead source, which is like where you got that lead from, is like whatever, I'll just fill in whatever. And now I'm learning like that needs to be crazy accurate, because if you don't know where your business is coming from, then you don't really know where to spend your time and money. So I've been taking that now, going through and like, I know in Command, if you actually get like a connection from a past client, you can connect that referral source to that contact, which is really nice in Command. So you can kind of keep track of like who are your VIP clients that are referring you. And I would say like to get deeper, add in their birthdays. Everyone has Facebook or Instagram, like add it in there. That's a touch. Social media profiles, because then you can target your database on Facebook ads and that helps. But I really treat like each contact's database profile as like almost like I'm a stalker. Like I try to add in everything, like their dogs' names, their kids. I even have like the general maybe age of their kid, or I try to put the year they were born so I have an idea of like what milestones they're hitting. But like I try to keep as much information in there as humanly possible without being, you know, maybe social security number you don't want to put in there. But like you can do, I don't know, I've gotten really intense with that. Keep, you know, detailed notes on your calls and conversations. You think you're going to remember, you're not going to remember. Every little thing they mention or every motivation, if they say they want to buy a house in Florida, they should be tagged as future Florida investor or future investor or vacation home. Like really try to make your database a foolproof way so you don't forget those deep conversations you had with them.
And the other important thing about keeping notes on people, again, to like be able to pull that information out in the future, but like sometimes, does anybody feel like when they go to pick up the phone and call someone, like whether it's a cold lead or even just like someone you haven't talked to in a while, is like the weight of the phone tremendously heavy because you're like, I don't even know what to talk to them about, right? But once you get on the phone and you have that conversation, right, no matter who it is, you're probably going to learn some new information based on that phone conversation. And if you take the notes, now 2 months from now, you can call them back and simply say, hey, last time we were talking, I know you were mentioning like your daughter was graduating high school and going off to college. Like, how's that going? It's collecting information that you can then use to continue to drive conversations. And that's really all about, again, building that moat and like creating deep relationships with people where it's not just a surface level conversation like, hey, the market's great, you know, anything new on your end? Nope. Okay, cool. Talk to you next time.
And then think you're gonna get the mind share. Like that's not gonna happen. If you think having those surface levels are gonna work, they're not. They're absolutely not.
So going deep.
Yeah, go deep and be genuine, I would say too. And I'm really big into tagging. Like I try to tag as many things as possible. And I would say like to go even more high level, ultimately the goal for all of us should be to be able to sell our database when we retire and get that to be passive income. So the better data you keep of your database, the more money in my mind it's gonna be worth in the future. If you have an agent take over your business, if they have all this, I mean, you're talking years of these connections and all this information, how powerful is that gonna be to, I would buy a database that was as detailed as sometimes mine is. Mine's a little creepy, like I said. So I think it's important to think beyond, or if you get an admin, right, you have a VA, it's important for her to be able to go into your stuff and kind of get in your head and see what you're thinking and see the type of conversations you're having.
All right, so we've got a database starting to build and we're trying to figure out how we're going to market to it, right? So first step is obviously creating the database. We're putting everyone in there. Now we want to start making that systematic personal contact. And this is where, again, it becomes super important that we have different ways to communicate with them. A home address allows us to send direct mail, right? So you could be a brand new agent and tomorrow you get your first listing. Is everyone in your database, everyone, your friends, your family and everything going to know that A, you're in real estate now, and B, that you actually just took a listing, which is super impressive? You want to be able to potentially send out like a mailer to them saying, hey, I just listed this awesome house. Are you thinking of selling? You could also send them newsletters, pop by. Pop by is super effective. Meg, you've done more of it than I have. But I will say the one pop by that I do every year, that kind of like Vanessa just talked about, like what fills us and what fills our cup. I love that now every Thanksgiving, I take 2 days, I carve out my schedule and everyone knows like, they just can't get in touch with me about anything besides me going out and hand delivering pies to my clients. I know a lot of clients, a lot of agents do like an event where people come to them. For me, I think there's nothing more special than getting to like go to my client's house and the conversations. Like this year especially, I like made it a point to turn my phone off. I would ring the doorbell, say, hey, it's been a while, but here, happy Thanksgiving. And it was amazing to me, like, again, I'm not really like a big touchy-feely person, but like people inviting me into their home, like wanting to like make me a coffee, sit down and like talk.
And they're proud of their house. They're very proud of it.
Life. Yeah, the conversations that I have with that for me as a Popeye is super special.
And I think you take advantage of it being like the season of gratitude and saying like, I'm appreciative of you, thank you. And I think it's important to like constantly remind our clients that we're very grateful for their business and their support. And we've done a client appreciation event together. You've done some virtual ones. They're super fun. Don't be intimidated by them. If you wanted to with another agent, it helps cut the cost down. And there's like really no one's going to sit your client in this community. Otherwise you wouldn't be at this company. I think it's a great way to like get over your fear and do it and have some fun. Yeah. And a couple hacks on that too is, so for client appreciation events, I just posted on Instagram. And so again, another way to connect with people is social media. So @ScottStewartHomes is my Instagram handle if you guys want to connect on there. I just did an event where I connected with, again, one of my vendors, an insurance agent who works out of like this really cool event space. They have it like as a membership. It's called the Karlofts in Fairfield. And she was like, well, as long as we keep like the event to a smaller amount of people, like we don't have to really pay to throw an event. So zero cost to me, I was able to call one of my like top VIP clients and be like, hey man, if you're free next Tuesday, I'm gonna do like a little wine and cheese thing at this place, the Karlofts. There's probably about like $2 billion worth of cars stored there. I was like, it's a really cool experience. I got pool and all this fun stuff. Like, you want to join? To him, that like
And it was like a super intimate, just free event for me. The other hack with events would be right now, if you literally just put like a Zoom meeting on your calendar once or twice a month to teach people about buying and selling. And now when you're in conversation with people, you can say, hey, I'm doing a buyer seminar next week. Would you want to join? It's again, another barrier to kind of just like getting them on the phone and having something to talk about.
Scott,
So-
what's the most important word in step number 2, you think, of that header? Systematic, right? This is not erratic. This is systematic. It should be repeatable. It should be predictable. So if you want to get excited and go, I'm going to do direct mail today, and then tomorrow, you have to have it really organized for the year. Because if you just do it sporadically, you're not going to get the same results as it being systematized. And also you're going to be in chaos, which I don't think we already are in chaos enough of the time. So if you can kind of make it something you follow in a business plan, it's one less thing you have to kind of panic about. And then that kind of helps you then, when all that's systematized and it's in a system and it's organized, you can then cultivate at a deeper level because your time is spent on deepening that relationship and not trying to reinvent the wheel every month when you're in a panic that business is drying up a little bit. So that's where you can kind of get a little bit deeper with gratitude cards, handwritten stuff, care calls. I know like during COVID, you all did that. I think during like that freak flooding we had, I called everyone like, are you okay? What's your house like? I know one of your clients got flooded, you were there. Like, it's important for us to care beyond who do you know and kind of build outside of that real estate relationship. And then obviously
I have a question. When
Yeah.
you did the pies, did you call people ahead of time to tell them? I
Yeah,
like
so-
the idea of going to the house.
Yeah, so I blast out an email to everyone and say, hey, these are the 2 days that I'll be going out doing this. Like, it's my sign of, gratitude back to you. This year, I also, so in Montclair, there's like a food soup kitchen equivalent that I had volunteered at. And I was like, you know what, like a lot of people last year told me like, no, you don't have to bring us a pie, like we're good. So this year I gave them the option to like check off a box that said like donate my pie on my behalf to the local soup kitchen. So that was also super cool. I literally showed up with like 15 pies and they were actively serving people like the Thanksgiving dinners. So as I'm like walking up, people were like bum rushing me, be like, I need a pie, I want a pie. I'm like, all right. So by the time I actually got to like the volunteer like table to plop them down, they were gone. But then again, it's just those
and
things
use the
that
Google form, right? To connect or no?
I forget how I did it.
Because he's
but-
at a VA now, he doesn't have to worry about it. As a compliment, like that's no longer his problem because that is something that he can
But-
leverage out.
Another huge point on this too is because as we dive to customer service, I would say just start to actively like take a notepad and keep it with you and like make notes on like how you do what you do.
Mhm.
Because if you're gonna deliver great customer service, it has to be repeatable, like Meg said, like it should be a thing that just works. My guilty thing was that like I'm capable of providing great customer service, but was I always providing great customer service? No, because like the things that I do at a high level, when my clients really were like, wow, like that was amazing, thank you for doing that. I wasn't doing them every time because I'd be like, oh, now I'm busy, I don't have time to do that. So documenting what you do so that you can literally then turn it into like a checklist. So to your point, like Meg, like we have now just like a checklist of what needs to be done to do a successful pie event. So it's on there somewhere,
Yeah,
what we do. But-
yeah. And then the next time it comes around, it's like not as much of a chaos. I mean, driving around is still gonna be a
Yeah,
lot.
because it's, again, I'm not naturally like a event planner, so that's not a strong
No.
suit of mine. So I rely on like that
Yeah.
list so that when it comes due this year, I'll be like, all right, we just pull out the checklist and run through that. When does everything need to happen?
And like, could you imagine if one year you do a pie event, they love it, and the next year they're like, oh, I'm not getting a pie from Scott? Like, it's being consistent, they can depend on you, and it's like almost like a low-key way of being like, she's always here for me, and when I need to help, buy, sell, or invest, or someone I care about does, she's there, she's shown up every single time. Like, all of us want someone that's there consistently supporting us. We want our partners to be that way, our mortgage lenders, our attorneys, so we have to also emulate that, otherwise we're not gonna get the business that we think we deserve.
So, good stuff. All right, connection questions. Meg, this was your favorite, so why don't you take this?
So I think I don't know, you can tell I'm a little chatty. I think there are times where I would have great conversations with people and I would feel good, but I would not really walk away with a deeper purpose or maybe really know their motivation. So this is from Shift on the left, which I thought was super. I read that in our book club and I was like, wow, that's really great. So that's more for like a lead, I would say, on the left is like, who are they? What do they need or want to do? Where do they want to do it? Why, when, and how? right? Because once you know all of that, you're gonna be able to help that lead and figure out how they are. I would say on the right is more people you're in a relationship with. So the forward, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. These are things you should probably know about your clients. And I think for me, and we had this discussion a few weeks ago in book club, I was kind of having a hard time like doing a forward, because I don't know about you, if I called some of my clients, they would think I like died because I'm 30. Like my clients and I don't call each other often. So I was having a tough time doing the forward via text without it feeling like a interrogation kind of. So one of the best pieces of advice I got was like, for dreams, I'm gonna go to Florida in a few weeks and be like, hey, who here wants to buy a second home at the beach? And then kind of figure out like who has that dream, and then be able to tie that into my database and have a dialogue with them about it, and remind them I can refer them an agent anywhere in the world. So I think there's like other ways to have these deep conversations besides it being like a phone call. So if you're afraid you're not gonna do the phone call, do something of this. Make sure you care about their occupation, their recreation, and their dreams.
And that was tied into, right, Instagram stories and then doing like a poll.
Yeah.
So while you're on a vacation, you could say like, who wishes they had like a dream house, where would it be? And you can say, yes, I would love a dream house, and where would it be?
And then have them answer it, and then you can put that in your database.
Yeah.
And then you now know that they have interest in that area. So like for me, I'm gonna make sure I buy, and hold me to this, postcards when I'm in Florida. And whoever is showing interest in a second home, I'm gonna give them a little postcard. Like, hey, greetings from Florida, like, let's make this dream a reality, let's talk. And like, get into those bigger dialogues. So I don't always execute this super well, but it's something I'm really trying to do with my existing people. Because I think we all think we know our friends pretty well, but I think there's always more we can get out of them. I'm sure a lot of us have had friends, they didn't realize like they wanted to buy a 2-family, and investor, like, oh, I had no idea, like, let's talk about that. So it's important to really ask these questions. Even if you think you know the answer, you could probably dig a little bit deeper and uncover more stuff.
All right, so touch campaigns. This is where we start to get into the conversation around like actual systems and models here.
Fred likes
right?
it, he's very happy.
Coach
This is what he preaches.
So this is like the fail point that I talked about before with the open house, right? When you first connect with someone, and it ties back to what Meg was saying about like having more questions to ask them and like diving deeper, but like you meet someone, they go into the database. Then over the course of the next 8 weeks, if you were to touch them, not physically, but like just reach out to them in different ways, 8 different times, you're gonna figure out whether that person has any chance of doing business with you in the future, or whether they just get shifted into our third thing down here, which is called 12 direct. So we'll come back to that. But if that person is engaged with you and saying, hey, yeah, Scott, I came to the open house, or it was nice meeting you at the event last week. I don't really have any real estate needs right now, but you continue to just work on building that relationship. As long as they're still communicating with you, they kind of went from that, hey, I just met you, to what's that song? Call me maybe.
I was like, I don't know.
You now kind of have that permission from them to stay in touch. And so now they would shift into 36 touch. 36 touch is your core part of your database, where these are people that you've met, they know you. If you did pick up the phone and call them, you're not a total stranger, or at least by a little bit of work, you could reconnect the dots and say, hey, remember
Yes.
we met at the open house at 123, or we met at this thing. Once they're in here, we're going to get into what do these 36 touches look like, but just know that they've given you permission to stay in touch on a more frequent basis than you would a random stranger off the street. If they haven't given you that permission, or they haven't answered any of your methods of trying to get in touch with them, call, text, email, they're just not answering, that's okay. And this is also another like misconception. A lot of people would tell you, and this is what I used to do, was like, all right, boom, like you're out of my database.
Yep.
Because you don't want to talk to me out of it.
Yeah. Totally.
But so now I have a separate tag for them. It's 12 touch, and like that's okay. They can still live in my database, but what I want to make sure is that I have them separated by tag. So they're over here, and I'm not going to communicate with them the same way as if I open up my database and I want to get in touch with my people. I know my people are here.
Yeah.
So.
And to make you feel a little bit less stressed by having to have all these campaigns, your 12 direct might be a piece of your 36 touch. So like we can get into the 36 touch. Like for me, and I know Scott and I do monthly emails. So there are some people that are in my database that are in my constant contact that are not technically on my 36, but they are on my monthly newsletter. So that could be with your 12 direct. So it's once a month for 12 months, obviously. So you don't have to create all this unique content. A lot of it you can kind of recycle and redo, which I think helps eliminate some of that stress.
And so this one too, like there's so many different ways you can do this, but who in here does use command at all? All right, so then who in here does the monthly neighborhood nurture?
Awesome.
All right.
This is great.
Freaking awesome. So the joke was that a few years ago, everyone was like, oh, screw this, Meg included, was like, these neighborhoods are garbage. That's not actually the name of a town or whatever. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Just put the people on it and like let it ride. So I personally don't use command on a daily basis anymore, but I do still have every single client on that monthly neighborhood nurture. And it like blows my mind when I go in there sometimes and I'm like, oh, like these people are like engaging and clicking around and they looked at a listing, they looked at a neighborhood, they add a neighborhood. I'm like, so obviously the people like the content that you're putting out there through the monthly neighborhood nurture. Now the key is, now I'm trying to get back into using command a little bit more regularly. So I'm like, crap, like this is a missed opportunity. I'm seeing people engage with my content in a live way where it would be super easy to then have a follow-up conversation about, oh guys, I saw you added, the weirdest one I've had so far, or not weird, but like cool, was seeing someone add like a neighborhood down in Florida, actually.
There you go.
And it struck up a whole conversation, like, like not yet, but like we really would like to make the move down there at some point in time. So they thought it would be a good idea to add that neighborhood and start just keeping an eye on what's the market like down there.
That's actually really, it's really impactful. I
And
didn't know that.
you learn all of that through command
Yeah.
and their engagement in the monthly.
So even like the ads I get from Facebook, I don't put them on an NJMLS campaign right away maybe, or Garden State, because I want to put them on a safe search on command so I can see if they're clicking and kind of have a little bit more of like the creepiness of what's going on. And again, this is all data that lives in the database. So like we both have our problems with command and yet we both use it to some degree because there are a lot of great things about it. So just using what works and focusing on that is great.
Excuse me, what CRM are you using if you're not using command?
So I use FollowUp Boss. You do as well, right? Yeah.
Okay.
I found it to be a little bit more of what I needed like right now. The moment that command takes that next step, I will be back to using command every single day. I did spend 2 whole years from like the beginning of COVID up until very recently, like committing to like cleaning up command and getting all my people in there tagged and everything. So it still exists. And now to Meg's point, like I do have my virtual admin, like everyone that I add into FollowUp Boss, she then adds into command so that the database stays the same on both platforms.
And I'm kind of more hybrid than you are, become more hybrid, and I think it kind of works that way. Is it maybe a little more work? Yeah, but ultimately if it gets me money and connections and relationships, I don't mind kind of living in both.
Yeah.
They both have their purposes.
Meg, I have a question.
Sure.
When you said you want them to stay in command with their safe searches, they have to use the app for that though, right?
I don't know the answer to that. No, right? Because it's a website essentially. They're getting an email. And then this is for people that like, I don't know it all. This is like a lead I get off Facebook. Don't know they're on smart plans for follow-up. I don't really engage with them. So I'm trying to see like, are they even opening my stuff? Are they either not really responding to my texts? And I just kind of put them. So I kind of use command as like my new leads and I'm doing them on smart plans. And then once I make connection, then they're going over to FollowUp Boss. That's just how I'm doing it because command has a lot of great automation. Like I use Twilio. I don't have to like worry when I get a Facebook lead of like, oh my God, I have to I'm not doing that. It's too chaotic for me. I can't. So command's been great with that. And then I think once they kind of prove that they're more serious, then I'll move them over to FollowUp Boss where I live in that more every day. But I mean, you gotta just find out what works for you. Like everyone is totally different. I would say our databases are probably very different and yet we're teaching the same thing. So, but this is just an example of our kind of.
Yeah, and there's that
36
old
search.
adage that the best database is the one that you
You're
actually
gonna
use.
Yeah.
Quarterly promo giveaways. Again, this can be a source where you gave away a solo stove.
And that was awesome. I got such good engagement. I had a kid from college who I have not spoken to in 12 years. I'm like, oh, I got your information now. Now I'm going to harass you, but like in a nice way. And it was good because again, like in this day and age, we know when someone opens an email and I'm like, oh wow, these people opened my email, but they didn't enter for the giveaway. So I texted them. So this is like a lead generation thing for me of everybody that didn't enter. I said, hey, just want to make sure you didn't miss it. Here's the Google form. How are you? People that did enter, hope you win. Best of luck. Maybe I'll put an extra name in there. Obviously, I'm kidding. But like a quarterly giveaway is like a great way to talk to everybody you care about. And what I did is put it on Facebook, and I hit every single realtor in the universe, sorry guys, from these posts. And I actually got some engagement from people that I have not spoken to. So I think I got like 2-3 new contacts that are now on my 36 touchdown. So it's kind of interesting, like you have to do these types of things, and it's kind of like a warm way to say, hi, I'm thinking of you, without it being like too real estate-y. And like I met my person who won it in person, and we got coffee, and we caught up, and we had a great conversation. So it's a great lead generation way to talk to everybody. It's kind of fun, and people like free stuff. I mean, I do. So I did a solo stove, and then I did a Bluetooth speaker, and then I think I'm gonna do a Yeti for the summer, a cooler. But you guys can't enter, so I apologize.
Direct mail, really quick, just glossing over this, but you can do just listed cards, just sold cards. I just actually recently shared, I think it was like 8 years ago. So like right when I got into the business, I wasn't very creative, and I sent out like the old, anybody remember like recipe cards?
He doesn't even cook. He's like, here's a recipe.
But it was insane because like, it got me business, and it proved the point. In the MRA, they talk about a fictional realtor that they created that they then mailed to a specific area for 12 months. And then they reached into that neighborhood and said, hey, if you were likely to sell your house, who would you use? And they named the fictional realtor who didn't exist.
Isn't that crazy?
She was just on the postcard. So it's another way to just gain mind share. The numbers are clearly not going to work out as beneficial as if you're in, actual relationship with people. But it does work. My postcards, literally, a guy called me and said, Russian accent. He's like, oh, if you come over and sell my house, will you also make me this pie? And I said, if you list your house with me, and that was actually my first listing. I walked in there nervous as could be. I'm like, never done this before. And I just promised this guy who's pretty scary in person that I'm gonna make him a pie. I don't know how to, but I got that listing, I sold it, and then what was really cool about that was I was targeting a condo complex specifically. That was the first step. Then all of a sudden, I got his neighbor's listing.
Yep.
Then I took a FSBO listing. Then I helped them move within the complex into a bigger unit. So all of a sudden I was taking like market share in this condo complex just from sending freaking recipe cards.
I know.
So,
You got pretty good at making pies.
Yeah.
never made him that pie. I bought him a bottle of vodka.
There you go. That's better.
I use a company called Personal Marketing too, and I send out like newsletters.
Is that
Yeah,
like
TMC.
TMS or something?
Yeah.
TMC, yeah.
They've been around for
The
a long
personal
time.
marketing company or something like that.
They're really awesome.
It's good to know.
company. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies out there that you can go on their website, get a price breakdown on what it's gonna cost and whether
And
you
we
send them
did,
to
we did
your.
core facts, which is
Yeah.
that you could pick a neighborhood and it's 12. Yeah, we've done that. You don't have to create all this content
The other cool
yourself.
thing too with this is like budget wise, like if you don't have the budget for like mailing to a huge community or anything like that, like I went to family reunion one year and heard a girl talk about how she farmed her community, and she was like, you might think that sounds glamorous, but like I started my budget, I had the ability to send out 10 cards a month. She sent to those 10 people, and then it grew to 20 and then 30, and all of a sudden she was farming this whole subdivision of like 1,000 houses. Because she just really started those little baby steps. So it's all about just taking action.
Yeah, and I think I think that's actually really impactful, because how many times have we not done something, it's like, well, we don't have the budget, or we're not big enough to do it. It really, you just need one. And I think that fact that she did that, even though it was just 10, is the reason why she's successful, because she didn't let that stop her from making a connection.
Yeah.
And I'm very envious of that. It's pretty cool.
Gratitude thinking of you, that's simple to your database, or even just people that come to your open house, write them a note.
Like my client got a new job, I wrote her congratulations card.
Yeah.
Pregnant, congrats on the baby. Like I have a whole box of different events. And because I don't know about you, I don't get cards in the mail anymore. I love getting like mail that's not bills. So I'm trying now, whenever I see something, because everyone shares everything on social media, just send them a quick card. It's nice and people feel good about themselves. Like if I got a new job and someone sent me a thank you, like a congratulations card, I would probably keep it on my fridge. But I don't brand those are not branded. These are people that know me. They're not KW. There's no KW on it. This is Megan O'Brien. And I don't even put my office return address or my home address on there. This is not always about business. I think that's important to say.
Yeah. Client events, again, even if you don't have the budget, like think and get creative. There's probably a way that you can do it on a very low or $0 dollar sum
Or
budget.
just pick like people that really support you and like you, ask to come over and catch up. Like
Yeah.
that use a client event. If it's just
Yeah.
for one person, that's fine.
That was mega camp or family reunion this year where they talked about like micro events.
Yeah.
Just like literally, if you know, like somebody works, you know, in this certain area and they go out to this bar afterwards for work, like work happy hour, be like, hey, like I'd love to join you there, buy you a drink. Like you can do an event on any kind of budget.
Yes.
So quarterly care calls, again, the idea is that that gets you 4 touches. And usually if you're like touching somebody once every 3 months that way, it doesn't seem like you're like overbearing and being like, hey, it's me again. But it's also, again, you can find a lot of ways, right? Mother's Day is a big one. Like how many people call like a random mother and just say, hey,
I
you're having a
texted
great.
everybody on Mother's Day in my phone. It
Yeah.
took me like 45 minutes, but I
Happy
texted
birthday
every
is
single
another
one.
good one.
Yeah.
So. All right, allied resources and VIP clients. So that's kind of what we were talking about is you move everyone into that 33, 36 touch. It used to be 33 touches, now you gotta do 36. The real magic sauce is in starting to identify who are the people that do repeat business with you and or you just know they're referring you tons of business. Like your name is in their mouth. Like if they hear real estate, they're like, you gotta call Scott. These are your allied resources / VIP clients. And these people definitely get treated that extra little bit better. It's just, again, like the extra touch on top. So again, when I mentioned like the special event, I knew right off the bat, like I had a list of 5 people that I was gonna call and figure out, all right, which one of you guys can make it next Tuesday? Because they are the people that consistently refer me business. And the other big key with anyone that's referring you business, please do me the favor, don't wait until the deal closes. The moment that they call and say, hey, my buddy Jack is gonna call you later this afternoon, you know, he's looking to buy a house next week, like, boom, that's awesome.
Reward the behavior, not the
Yeah,
result.
doesn't even matter whether Jack calls you, whether like,
Yeah.
none of that matters. The fact that your buddy picked up and made that connection for you, reward it. And it doesn't have to be anything astronomical. Like I started out literally with just like Dunkin' Donuts gift cards for
And
$5 and
I
said,
was gonna touch on that because what I did is I used.
You guys killing it?
I hope so.
Are they killing it?
I thought you were gonna give us the hook.
I know, I was like, oh no, I got so scared.
I was debating whether to interrupt you or not, but thank you guys for doing it.
Thank you. Thanks for having
All
us.
you guys for coming.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Something I did is like, I always had these like grand visions of like thanking them, but then if I didn't have like the gift card at home, I probably wasn't gonna get it done. So if you're deciding that everybody that sends you referrals getting a $15 Starbucks gift card, have 5 of them at home or in the office. That way, the minute the behavior, you hang up the phone or you get that text message, you have that envelope right there. It's like creating the least resistance to do like a positive thing. So I used to like have these big grand, oh, I'm gonna get them a $100 gift card to their favorite restaurant. It was like a lot of work. And it got to the point where I ended up not doing it because I was making it too grand, and then I never even got thanked because I was like making it about me having a big moment. So just being honest, like now I have at home a stack of Starbucks gift cards, and now I'm like, I want to do it grand, but right now my bandwidth cannot allow for that. And when I grow bigger, then maybe I can do that. Maybe when I have a freaking gopher, like go do this for me. But right now I don't have that. So I'd rather give them $15 than have the intention of giving them 100 and giving them 0. So I would say if today you're deciding to do this, go to CVS, get the gift cards and be done with it. That way when it happens, you could instantly reward it, because I used to make it way too complicated.
all right, so here's my hero.
Well, okay. I have a clicker though, I have a clicker, so I think it's me.
So database by the numbers. So what we know, and it's not just me who's saying this, Gary says this, he put a lot of time and effort into researching all of this. Raise their hands, who has read Millionaire Real Estate Agent, the book? Right.
This is awesome.
All the way through? Pick it up again. The number of times that I've read through that and like highlighted different times, you always learn something new. But for every 12 people in your Met database, contact database, to which you market yourself 36 times, your 36 touch, you can reasonably expect to net 2 sales. There's actual numbers here behind this. And that's page 148 of the MRA, if you want to go reference a really good meaty section of that book.
I just hope you guys know that we got such a giggle out of this picture. We had a lot of fun putting this in here. We like cropped it out. We got very excited. So I hope you enjoyed the picture of Gary. And I don't think it landed like we were expecting it to, but that's fine. All right, so Scott's the numbers guy, I'm the feelings person, so this is gonna be where he
Yeah.
hurts my brain a little.
All right, so we're gonna walk this through, right? So your path to capping. Now, if we capped, would we net $100,000? Does anyone know the answer to that? No. So capping is like a really awesome goal, and what I would also encourage is like, I know we said 6 figures here, and I guess you guys are all in the room, so you have a desire to get to that level. But it's also totally okay to not have that as a goal.
True.
And capping doesn't even have to be a goal. Like maybe you get fulfillment doing 4 transactions a year, and that's okay. This is just showing you a model to do that maybe in a little bit better way. And sometimes you might even be surprised by the results if you just follow some of the systems and models where you can lead a bigger life without having to, you know, stress out and feel like you're pulling your hair out all the time. So our cap, I think volume wise, is roughly 4.6666 million. Does that sound about right? Give or take. So what I did here was we took the average sales price of 500,000, which I think is pretty safe in this area, and said basically you need to get to 10 transactions in order to cap. So now, quiz time. The numbers, what do they all mean?
We also got a lot of joy out of this.
Kind of being creative for this one. I was like, took the image and made my
We had a
own.
lot of fun.
So how many people do you need in your database to cap if we need 10 transactions? And we know that the numbers from before were every 12 people, we get 2 transactions.
So he did this to me in the Zoom, we were making his class, I was like, oh my god, he's asking me, man, when I got it right, didn't I, Scott? I got it right,
So
but I panicked.
I want to steal
I
Vanessa's.
don't,
All right, so we need 10 transactions, right, Meg? So walk us through the math.
no, Nope, I'm having some trauma from middle school, please don't, please don't.
All right, so we're gonna multiply this by, no, sorry. Divide this by 2, because that's 2 transactions for every 12 people. So 2 deals per person. So that gives us 5. That's not the number of people we need in our database. We need 12 people to get those 2 transactions. 60 people. If I ask any of you guys to pull out your phone right now and go to your contacts, do we have 60 contacts or more in there?
Oh, yeah.
So everyone in this room can cap. And then, now that we kind of know how the numbers work in my head here, what's our pathway to 6 figures? To get to 6 figures based on the MRA model here, so really important to know, right? You can go out there and say, hey, I did 7.2 million in volume, and I averaged 2.5% on every one of those commissions. Boom, I made $180,000 last year. For anyone who's filed taxes, do you know that that's not the case, right? Right, first thing that we have to cover and account for here is the fact that to work in an awesome place like this, we do have to, this model of Keller Williams is interdependent, right? We pay a certain amount towards our cap and our royalty. And then at that point, we are done paying the market center for the rest of the year, and we get to earn 100% commission. So our responsibility there, combining the cap and royalty, is 38,000. So we take that off the top. This was just a budgeted amount. So in the MREA, for someone doing 7 million approximately, you should expect that you're going to have about 30% going towards your cap, and cost of sales is what they call it. And then 30% is going to go, nope, sorry, 30, and then 20%. Who's got the numbers there? I had to fudge the numbers a little bit because I made up a new column in the MREA where it's not a $6 million producer, it's a $7.2 million producer. You could have $42,000 of direct business expenses. So again, going back to like, do you have the budget to do mailers? Do you have the budget to host a client event? Do you have the budget to go out and buy pies? All of that exists within your budget. And again, I would just encourage you to go back to the MREA, come out to the growth committee's MREA class every other Wednesday, where we go over all of this in a lot more depth. But that would net you 100,000. And then do we have
one more.
Oh, yeah. I was like, what else did we have?
So,
This is all great, Scott and Meg, but how do I do this? We were also very excited for that part too.
now that we know this map, wait, Meg, can we go back a
Of
slide?
course we can.
So 7.2 million. Do we know how many transactions it would take to get 7.2 with our $500,000 price point? 14 point something something. So if we round up to 15 transactions, sorry, Vanessa,
How dare you?
divided by 2, we get 7.5 times 12. What's our magic number? How many people in the database do we need? 90. Same question. Does everyone have at least 90 contacts?
Yes.
So you can accomplish this. You might be thinking, I have more people in my database. Why have I not accomplished this goal? That's me sometimes. When my coach is like, what are you doing over there? This is where, like, I would say, and the reason that we're both kind of passionate about this is that, so to reflect for a moment before we give you the nice handy little chart is, so I got into this business in 2013. From 2013 till 2018, I worked on growing my business. Then I got a great opportunity to become the productivity coach in our other market center. So not really being prepared, I reached out to the first person that I trusted in the business and said, Meg, I need you to handle my people. If anybody wants to buy and sell over the next however many years I'm doing this job, you're going to be in charge. Didn't really put any planning into it. Didn't think of like how I was going to continue to communicate with them. So I took that job, productivity coach, and I dove right into it. Totally ignored my database, basically. I think I had them on one like drip email.
Yeah,
With my BombBomb email, which BombBomb I would normally now like include a video every single month. It makes it a little bit more personal and whatnot. There, I was literally, they just curated content and it was like, hey, here's what, fun summer barbecue activities are. So again, it wasn't like great content or anything, but I just left them on that. And I think we probably averaged what, maybe about 5 transactions.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
annually?
like, as much as we did not know what we were doing and we really were in chaos, his strength of his relationships, we're still giving him business, right? And we look back now that if we had known what we know today and had the support that we have at Prosperity, we probably could have been having you make a 6-figure income just passively through me running the business.
Absolutely.
Because we just know so much more now about systematically touching. And I mean, you kind of had a database back then, but we didn't really like have a plan around the database.
But that's the reason I bring that story up, because it's so important and it really shed a lot of light on like, so then now flash forward, me being the smart guy in the room, on February 6th of 2020, I handed my resignation. I said, hey, I'm done coaching. I want to go back to being an agent. Little did I know, COVID was right around the corner, right? So my resignation said that I would act as that role until April 1st, and then I was going to go back into full-fledged real estate business. I panicked when COVID hit, and luckily I had hired a coach, and he was like, just call your people. I'm like, oh, what a novel idea.
Yeah.
So I just started picking up my phone and contacting people in my database and be like, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? The world's crazy out there. What I learned from that was all of the missed opportunities that we actually did have because I didn't communicate with my people on a high level in my time as the coach. That's okay though, because it was a big learning lesson and shined that light. And so now for the last 2 years, I've been on a path where like my first step, you heard Vanessa talk about the importance of like a GPS plan. So I wrote my GPS out. I'm like, all right, database is priority number 1, but then I need some business now. Like I got to start making money. So I'm going to call FSBOs and expireds, and I'll do one other thing. I wanted to do open houses, I think, but COVID kind of tossed that to the curb. So I was like going through my care calls. I got done with that. I'm like, all right, nobody's selling the house tomorrow. Still COVID times. Let me start seeing if there's some expireds and FSBOs I can call. Start picking up those calls. And I realized I'm like, I hate doing this. Like, it's just not me. So I had a long conversation with my coach, and he's like, well, if you're going to focus on your database only, you're going to kick anything else to the curb, then you're going to have to like really do your deep dive on your database and continuing to grow it. So I would say I've now created a business plan that has me only living in my database. And I still to this day don't get the numbers that say for every 12 people in there, I'm getting 2 transactions. But what that means to me is that there's still a lot of room for improvement on how I'm communicating with my people. But the good news is not a single person has sold their house in my database with anyone other than me
That's awesome.
since I started calling and contacting them on a regular basis again. And it was like gut wrenching to hear people just be like, oh, Scott, you didn't know, like, we actually sold 1.5 years ago, like, didn't know you were still in the business. I'm like, oh.
Because he was still in the business. I think
Like,
that's why it hurt you so badly. Like,
yeah.
we were still living, breathing, and eating real
But
estate,
going
but they
back to
didn't
that-
know that.
That first slide was like, I kind of disappeared off the radar. And if somebody's only calling 1, maybe 2
Yeah,
agents,
you were the.
I just wasn't in that position anymore. So now it's been,
Scott was
again,
the everyone else guy.
Yeah. but, and again, that occasionally led to an opportunity, right? The
Yeah.
come list me. And that's the great thing with a database is once you start communicating with your people, you start to, again, learn what's going on in their life. And like you build that deep connection, you're going to get a hell of a lot more come list me calls than the, hey, we're interviewing realtor calls. And that's really cool. That's the power of the database.
And I think
So-
like knowing your database is super important. Like I have a goal of income that my database cannot get me to. I have to grow it. So like I had to have like the almost opposite of what Scott had of, oh, I need to prospect because it's not happening with what I got. I have good referrals, I have that, but it's not getting me to the income that I desire. So my goal right now is to live in my database with the people that already know me and meet new people and add them in there. So I think, again, that's why I mentioned like know your lead source. So really know your numbers, because I kind of just always was like, I don't need to prospect. I have the people, but like, I don't, we are different. Like we have different pasts and we have different ages. Like I just don't have the same people that he has. And it was a harsh reality. And yet the sooner I realize that, the sooner I can fix the problem. And I think a lot of us sometimes like to bury our head in the sand. I wish I had that quote shift. It was so good. And I just think it's super important to like get real with the numbers, even if you want to like vomit and cry. Like I did. Well, I didn't vomit, but like I cried. But then you just like, all right, well, at least now I know I can fix it. Like if you don't know where it's coming from, that's why it's important to know your database. It's important to know your numbers, because how could you get to this if you don't even know what you have? So just get real with the numbers. And I don't like numbers and I don't like reality sometimes, but the sooner I started to wrap my head around, I have to be adding people to this, the better I'm already feeling mentally. I'm already seeing the vision being a little bit less volatile for me. And it's been like a long journey. I'm still getting there. But whether you're Scott and you're lucky enough to live in your database, or you're like me that kind of has to do like a 70-30 split there, just figure it out and then get to that point where you can do that.
Yeah. And so we also wanted to, and maybe what we could do is we have a PDF of this that we
I
can
can
maybe
make it.
post on like the
Yeah.
Facebook group. So I wanted to just like break it down super simple, because I think sometimes when you think of like, all right, like I need to now go get name, phone number, email, and home address for 90 people into my database like tomorrow, that seems daunting. But if you just focus on over the next 30 days, building the habit, and we even give you weekends off. But today, leave this classroom and find one person that you can add into your database, full contact information. Tomorrow, do the same thing. The next day, add 2 people. The next day, 2 people, 3 people. Little by little, we're building the habit of adding people into our database. And again, if you have a database like already established, maybe your goal and your game around this is go in there and identify your top people and make sure you've got the name, the phone number, the email, and the home address for them, the birthday. Do a deep dive over the course of the next 30 days. And I promise you that somewhere 3 months to 6 months from now, you're going to see that show up in a big
Yes.
way. Because again, those care calls at the beginning of COVID were me reestablishing a relationship with my people. They didn't have anything to buy or sell that moment, but now it's reestablished that deep connection with them and allowed me to just continue to churn off of that. So.
And I feel like this has helped me even just with prospecting. Like yesterday I made calls and I was like, well, I only got 2. And I'm like, well, I got 2 that I didn't have the day before because I was not doing this. So I think like we can get really hard on ourselves because we see the end result and we get overwhelmed with how do we get there. But then you see this and you're like, oh, I can add 1 person today. And then tomorrow I can add 1 person. Then you get more excited to add a second, and then it kind of builds off your success. So I think chunking it down, and that's like a big part of like the 135 that Vanessa was saying today too, is like it's overwhelming unless you really organize it. And then it just becomes part of your daily tasks that feels very normal to do.
You build a habit.
Build a habit.
So
That's
it.
it.
Any questions? Anybody? Do we have them online? We got Pete and Eric. Anybody have questions?
I refuse to believe nobody has a question.
I got one.
Let's say you're working on a team
you think it's smarter to have one database for the team or your own individual database?
It's a good question. So I think what I would recommend is, depending on like the dynamic of the team, one of the things that I reflected on and realized was that like when I transitioned into the coach role, if I had simply just gone through my whole database and said, hey guys, meet Meg, like it would have given that warm introduction where, again, like nobody really cares about specifically working with me.
Yes.
What they care about is getting the customer service experience that I've promised them. So if I can tell Meg what that looks like and she can go out there and repeat it, then it really doesn't matter like who's communicating with the people in the database. That being said, I would say like you're always going to naturally have like closer connections. So if it is like one overall team database, I'd say within that, maybe you have some tags where it's like, oh, this is Russ's, you know, VIP person. Like Russ is always going to connect on a higher level than maybe somebody else on the team. But I do think, you know, living cohesively within one system.
Within there.
Yeah.
Tags are your best friend. Like I used to be like, don't tag too much. Now I tag like everything. Because now I'm trying to think of like, all right, one day I really want to go through and talk to all blank. I just have to go through the tag and it's a lot easier. So that's made my life just a little bit less chaotic, and I'm helping future Megan remember what present Megan was thinking that very minute. So I'm like, oh, remember, I'm young, my brain's great. And then I'm like, I have no idea what this person was supposed to do. And I've even done like investor tags or future investor, or future seller, or future buyer, or bad credit. I even have tags of people that don't drink alcohol in case I ever do an alcohol-based event or a Popeye. I want to be respectful of anyone that doesn't do that, so they can also still get something from me. So like it could be a big tag, it could be a little tag. I just tag everything and everyone now. So.
And I think the other like important part about tagging and taking notes for anybody, like, so just personal experience, I feel like when you scribe something, like when you write it, so like on the phone, you're talking to somebody, don't like freak out. You're like, oh my God, I gotta enter this directly into my database as I'm talking. And there you are, you're multitasking, typing and whatnot. Like be present, listen, but I like to just personal like experience, write it down on a pad of paper right next to where I'm sitting, like either right after I do like a brain dump, and then it can go into the database later on. And I think there's something about putting pen to paper that really seals stuff in your head, so that you can have a little bit more natural recall. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So.
I just would like to say, I'm in the business 23 years and nobody until I came to Keller Williams taught me about database.
I agree.
And I'm with Keller Williams for 6 years and it's tremendous to me in order to really build your business and, you know, to just get more and more business.
So they call it a data bank, right?
And
Jason Abrams calls it a data bank because that's where your money lives. That's where all of your income comes from.
And a majority of your business comes from people you know, right,
Yeah, just
Jeannie?
referral and,
Yeah.
you know, and staying in touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like our one job is to just keep talking to people. Like it's just a prospect. Doesn't have to be cold calling. If you have a database like Scott, he doesn't have to do cold calls. I have to, and that's fine. It's the reality of it. We all have to do things we don't like in life. Right? And the sooner I think you just, like,
I would
think
still
Vanessa-
challenge you on that. So you don't have to go do cold calls. You could find other ways to get involved and
Yes.
grow your database.
Yeah,
right?
but I think in an hour of my time at home.
There are more effective, yeah.
Yes, like I can go through a lot quicker people and you get to pick the price point. So like I started out this business, you know, I was young, I have a license and I was like 22, 21. Like if my top price point was $275, Megan was having a good day. So when you prospect, you also get to pick like your commute and you get to pick your price point. So I would say that's another benefit of like, if my database is, you know, a little bit lower in the income and the price point, which is fine. And ultimately, if I want to cap in 10 transactions, I'm not doing that on 250s. So you can kind of pick your market. Like I just moved recently. I would much prefer to drive 5 minutes to an appointment than 35 minutes, especially with gas prices. So you get to kind of pick your business as well and like where you want to prospect. So I would say that's another benefit is like you get to grow your database where you please.
Yeah.
And that's something that I would like to keep my other ties and add new ones in and kind of go from there.
So thank you guys.
Thanks for coming. Thank you.
Not yours, right?